next day came and we're getting thrown around while we're flying, we're being chucked about, we did 50k, and that was like the eye-opener of going, oh no, this could go really like one or two ways.
Have you got any advice on how they can go from flying locally around the field to actually enjoying the adventure side of the sport?
Yeah, so the first thing I would suggest is...
It just shows that you don't have to fly across Australia to have a good time.
No. You don't need to commit what you think is 3 weeks that turns into 3 months. No,
yeah.
Not at all. When I came away from it, from the Ozone team, I was like, I need to go back.
Yeah.
And I need to like show more people this area.
So we have got Richard Dolan, or should I say Rich Dolan? You've not been naughty. What do you prefer?
People call me anything, mate. I'm not really fussed.
All right, cool. We've got Mr. Dolan here.
Yeah.
We thought we'd use this podcast to talk a little bit about paramotor adventuring. We've got the perfect man for the job here. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how you started paramotoring, what got you into paramotoring, and then what you've done since starting flying?
So I started working for a sister company to Parajet, obviously one of the biggest brands in the UK. And the sister company was called Rotron. I came out straight out of university, did a mechanical engineering degree, ended up there designing the rotary engine for UAVs, stuff like that. And then when I went for the interview, I was like, what are these things? I'd never seen them before, didn't know what they were. I was like, what on earth are these? They're like, oh yeah, paramotoring, and you could get on the fly to work scheme. So, because it was a sister company, got there, first person on the fly to work scheme. So you basically get the machine, you pay a small deposit, and the rest comes out your paycheck. Like
it's a great way to sell a machine, yeah.
Exactly. Great way to sell a machine. Great way to get into the sport when you're just out of uni as well.
It's obviously worked though.
I became obsessed.
You know,
absolutely obsessed with it. So yeah, do the training, started flying, and then it was every lunchtime. The weather was good. Go out. I remember I forgot my shoes one day, and I took my, slippy shoes, smart shoes.
Yeah.
I went to take off, slipped, did a prop, and had to walk it back into the office.
Thought you were in for a fly.
Yeah, exactly. Devastated. But yeah, I just became obsessed with it, and then I started flying a bit more, pushing the boundaries a bit more, and then went on an SIV and did all that sort of stuff, and then just found how good it was for adventuring as well. So I'd regularly, it was based in Dorset, Parajet's based in Dorset, take off there and then fly down the coast and spend the night there. Or
nice. So you're straight into that idea of like a bit of paracamping sort of thing.
It was really, really fun, and the adventure side of it, and being able to see somewhere up close and fly around. And,
Well, I think there's a lot of people that get into paramotoring, they have the idea of doing the adventure, but they never actually do anything about it. So maybe later on we can sort of get your advice on where to go with that. So that's a great way into the sport. I don't think I know anybody else who's got into the sport through a fly to work scheme. So,
I think it's one of the easiest ways.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by great mentors as well. There's Kester Haynes, who any question I had, I could just go up to him. And even when I was being stupid on the motor and doing silly things, not realising the dangers or something. He'd quite gently, just point me in the direction, and it was really good to have that kind of mentor around as well.
Nice. That really does help, doesn't it? I think, again, paragliding, you're always using the same sites, so it's really easy to get that mentoring from other people. But at the start of your flying career in paramotoring, often people leave the school and then it's I'm flying by myself here.
Exactly.
I think anybody who can grab a mentor or find someone who's the right person to help you, because there's lots of people that'll say, it's not flyable today, oh no, don't do that. But the right person, I think you're really lucky to grab that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Awesome. So you've then gone from learning to fly, sort of dipping your toe in the water with this bit of para-camping, and then next thing we know, I think when most people heard your name was your flight across Australia with a certain Mr. Twitty.
Yeah, that was interesting, that one. That came about, so Andrew Twitty and a guy called Scott Ryan who lives in Australia, they met in Turkey. I think they were having a beer there, and then Scott was saying, I'm going to fly across Australia one day.
Good ideas over beer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Twitty said, cool, let me know when you're going to do it, I'll join. And then he obviously thought, I know someone stupid enough to jump in on this and join us, so told me about it. And then like a year later or something, Scott did all of the planning for the route, most of the planning. Scott did most of the planning for the route, and then we just went over there and started flying it. And
nice.
Yeah, like you say, all good stories start over.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have any support throughout that then? Did you have somebody following you around in a van?
No. We started the three of us, but first thing we did was drive across Australia, putting fuel caches in and oil caches.
If you've watched the video series, you see that's probably a bit pointless in the end.
One of them was pointless. The rest of them were lifesavers.
Oh, right, that's fair enough then.
So yeah, we drove across, putting the stashes in, and then the first day, it was beautiful conditions. We had a tailwind going out to the coast because we did west to east, and we started 120k away from the coast at a roadhouse. We had a tailwind going out. We got to the coast. It was beautiful. I was flying like no gloves. It was just perfect temperature. And then the land heated up. We had the wind back on our back behind us, pushing us back into land. Then it was perfect. We did 350k.
You turned around to then do your
exactly.
Flight, thinking
350k done one day. Man, this thing's going to be easy. Scott had quite a few engine issues that day. Which was annoying, but apart from that, it was breezy. And then, unfortunately, Scott, because of the engine stuff, had to drop out, which was a huge shame because he did all the planning basically for us. So now me and Twitty, they're just running this loop.
I mean, it's his brainchild at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a huge shame. But yeah, he didn't want to do it with that engine, and that made a lot of sense. So anyway, the next day came. And we're getting thrown around while we're flying. We're being chucked about. We did 50k, and that was like the eye opener of going, oh no, this could go really like one or two ways. And also you get up to height and you just look at this road, this straight road disappearing on the horizon, and you're like, yeah, this is going to take a long time. You're flying for an hour and this road is still just on the horizon, disappearing across.
Wow. At this road, you're not going to be able to tell on the camera, but it literally just disappears off onto the horizon.
So how many days did it take you overall?
It was 92 days from start to finish.
And how many days had you planned for?
We did 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We were like 3 weeks, this would be easy.
And you thought you nailed it by that first day? You thought,
350k.
Yeah.
So it was 5,100 kilometres in total, 100 hours of flying, and we thought we'd do it in 3 weeks, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, 3 weeks was actually like good case scenario, good weather, we'll be able to get through it. But then we kept having, it was on the news when we were going across, worst weather in 100 years. People there had never seen the grass so green.
Yeah.
And we're trying to fly across Australia. There were mass floodings. Like one town we went to, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the river flooded so much, it damaged so much of the town.
Really?
Like all the snakes had been pushed out from where they usually are, which really made Twitty quite happy. And so, yeah, the weather there during that period was just crazy.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. But we persevered with it.
I mean, fair play for you to persevere, because that's like serious. There must have been a lot of times you just thought...
Yeah, man, there was twice where we were stuck in one place for 10 days. You know, we'd take up opportunity wherever we could 2 occasions we were stuck in a place for 10 days. One of them was a place called Baladonia, and it was horrendous. I had 1 or 2 bars of 3G, so we couldn't even use the internet. We had chips and burgers, and that was it, because it's just a petrol station, or like really expensive biscuits or chocolate, whatever it was. And then nothing else. We had 4 walls, and it was like a mini prison sentence.
Wow.
And that was along the Nullarbor. There was one road that goes across the South Coast.
Yeah, so it's not like it's just a quick trip to local town to come back again.
If we did have a gap of an hour, we couldn't go anywhere because we'd be stuck in the middle of nowhere before we reached the next road.
So you had to have decent weather to actually
progress, because we don't know when that next period, like if we had an hour here, we could go, but then it could be another 6 days of stuck.
Yeah, literally camping. Yeah. Wow, fair play to you and to Twitter, because that's incredible. And I have to admit, it's got to be one of my favourite YouTube series in paramotoring going. I think it's sort of raw. You see it all. It's wicked.
I really appreciate that.
If somebody hasn't seen that, where can they find it?
Just on YouTube, Rich Dolan Paramotoring, something like that.
Awesome. I definitely recommend looking for that, because what is it? About 6 episodes?
There's 10 episodes.
Yeah. It's definitely worth sitting down with a cup of tea and watching them over a few nights, because they do show the ups and the downs pretty well.
A lot of downs, actually.
You look back with a smile on your face.
Oh yeah, it made it a proper adventure. Sure.
Exactly. So what kit was you flying on the adventure across Australia?
So I was flying a Fly Products Rider with a Pellini 202 on a Foxy Trike, which is the Fly Products again, and I was using a Speedster 324 meter.
Nice.
Twitty was on a Mac Fly with a 202 and a Trike, and he was flying the Viper 522 meter.
Nice.
Which was quite interesting to see the fuel consumption between the two.
How do you get on with the speed difference?
So the speed,
you're both similar weights, aren't you? I know it's a little bit heavy.
Well, all up we were about 160 kilos because of all the gear we had.
Yeah.
The kit, which is why we went for the Trikes. Speed-wise, we were quite similar, even though he was on a smaller wing.
Yeah.
Because the speed is much faster. Efficiency-wise, I was burning through so much more fuel. Yeah, so much more fuel. So the Speedster's a little bit faster, but in terms of fuel consumption and like the efficiency.
When you come to the Vipers. I mean, they're a competition wing. They're designed to be efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the downside of that is that he felt every little thermal.
I was just going to say, it looked like you had a little bit more fun.
I was flying hands off and just like looking at the next stops. There's there were apps we were using to check the weather stations ahead and the forecast and planning, and I just sat like looking off into the distance, listening to my music podcast, and then I look over at Twitty and he has to be hands on. So he's put some bungees onto the tip steering lines. He's holding them down here so he doesn't have to constantly be up. And he's holding them down on bungees just so it doesn't start rocking, or if there's any little bit, then he can manage it.
It's a shame the XC went out then, because that would have been a different ball game for him. You've got the efficiency and the...
And he messaged me halfway across saying, "We're doing this wing, you're going to love it." Perfect. Thanks.
Oh man, awesome. No, well done for you guys. That's just incredible, and it's nice to see people really pushing paramotoring sort of and seeing what you can get out of it instead of just flying around the same field round and round like so many people do. So another sort of first you've been involved in is flying over the pyramids, especially at night. How did that come about?
That was
sounds
with
pretty cool.
Ozone, basically. So Amelia Plack organised a trip to Egypt and then was asking Ozone pilots and dealers and things like that if they wanted to come. And I managed to get on that trip, and it was one of the most eye-opening for the experiences you can do, and it was like nothing else I'd been on before. So we arrived there straight into this amazing hotel, and okay, cool, we're going to fly around the pyramids in the morning. Straight in there, like non-stop. Just go, flying around the pyramids, flying around El Galala, this amazing city. Go to Luxor. We fly along the River Nile, foot dragging the River Nile, and then going up and flying over the temples.
Just seeing the pyramids. And I was lucky enough to see the pyramids when I was younger, and just thought, wow, that's amazing. But to fly around them and literally be, wow,
it is such an experience. And one of the most beautiful things about traveling and flying with a paramotor is that you get a perspective that nobody else gets to see. Because you fly over it in a plane or, you know, be on the ground looking around. But in a paramotor, you get to fly close to things slowly and get to actually experience it from above, and then you can land and still do the rest of the stuff as well.
Exactly. You can't really do that with Cessna, can you?
No, exactly. Just pulling into this field and go have a look around.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most beautiful things about Australia as well. You can fly across and you see these amazing... I've never seen so many sunsets and sunrises, because we're trying to get every opportunity. It just means we get to experience all of it. And because we're forced to go slow... and then land out in football fields, and the amount of times people came up to us and we got accommodation because these guys had approached us, because they're like, what is this thing? And then, you know, you're interacting with people, and people you wouldn't otherwise interact with. Like if you're in a car, you drive across, you get the hotel, you know where you're going, all this sort of stuff. But because people haven't seen this thing, you land in a field, people are like, what on earth is this? Where have you come from?
And again, that's not going to happen in a Cessna, is it?
No, exactly.
Flying airport to airport, you're really experiencing the culture as well as...
which is why I honestly think it's one of the best ways to see something.
Awesome. So I think there's some awesome photos from your trip over the pyramids as well. We'll try and stick them up for those watching. And you can really see...
wizard with a camera. I was on comms to him actually at the time.
Oh, nice.
Like a little child in a sweet shop going crazy because he got the photo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because he got the photo and I was on comms, like, because he was directing us where to go. And
brilliant. Nice. Yeah, we'll see if we can stick them up on the video. Awesome. So you've gone from first person to take part in a fly to work scheme, first person to cross Australia by paramotor. Is that completely, or was anybody else done that before?
People started it at the same time as us, but they skipped bits. Where the weather was bad, they used a support vehicle.
Okay, but you guys always took off from where you landed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if there was a point where we couldn't, we flew back over that area. And then carried on. Technically, I think it was Twitty that was first to take off.
Well, I think, you know...
But together, we were the first.
Yeah, exactly. And then you was part of the first group to fly over the pyramids at night as well. So that's pretty good. I believe there's another first in the UK. First person to do the rocket loop in the UK.
Yeah.
So you must have done a fair bit of training to get up to that. So how did you go from... flying over pyramids to, I don't know, what came first? Was it the rocket loop? Or
no, it was the pyramids first.
Pyramids first, yeah. And then, really getting into the acro to have the confidence in your wing to literally fly over the top of it doing a rocket loop.
So I mentioned before that I was pushing with my training and I had Kester as a mentor. But one time I was trying some wing overs. Thought I was getting pretty good at them. Now, I can look back at the videos now and be like cringe as I'm waiting for it to happen. I know what's coming, but thought I was getting pretty good, and then end up just putting my input in at the completely wrong time, get a frontal collapse as I'm doing it, drop out, luckily nothing happens, and then I'm like, oof, go down and land. I'm like, right, I need to book an SIV course. I've heard about these things, and it's a sort of entry into acro, if you like, and that's what my goal was. I've since realised, in fact, after the first course, I realised that it was a lot more than that. But my first course, where I thought I was pretty good with energy management, I was awful. The paramotor allows you to get away with a few things.
Yeah.
Shorter lines on the gliders, quite a lot of the time. You've got extra weight, so that pendulum effect lets you get away with a lot of stuff. And then when you don't have that, you very quickly realise your inputs are wrong, your timing's wrong, your weight shift is wrong, because it has a much bigger effect on the glider and how it can handle.
Yeah. Did you do your SIV on a paramotor wing or a
No, I took my paramotor wing with me, but they advised me to get a paragliding wing.
Yeah, because that makes a difference as well. A little bit of trim out on the paramotor wing, you can decide whenever you want to put the input in. Whereas when it comes to a paragliding wing, you've got a much smaller window.
Yeah, exactly. So
timing.
And the reason, like being an SIV instructor now, the reason we go to a paragliding wing is because you need to build that timing, build that sort of understanding first before you then move it over to the motor.
Yeah.
So if you're learning first time to do wing overs on a motor, you're going to get away with a lot, but when it when you don't get away with it, then the consequences are much higher.
Yeah. Obviously, with you being the first at doing all these things, you don't just rock up and do it. There's got to be a bit of planning involved. You've got to think about what's going on. So there's lots of guys out there, lots of girls out there that learn to paramotor. They do the training, they get out, they fly some small cross countries, but what they really want to do is the adventure side. They want to go out on an adventure. They want to make the most of what paramotoring can offer. Have you got any advice on how they can go from flying locally around the field to actually enjoying the adventure side of the sport?
Yeah, so the first thing I would suggest is nailing your sort of spot landings. I'm not talking about a tiny little area that you want to land in, but if you are cross-countrying, you run out of fuel, which does happen more often than you think, or you have an engine out, or it's just bad weather and you want to land, you need to be able to assess your conditions for landing and know that you can put it down in a certain area. So practicing the landing, engine off landings, coming down. It's quite easy to get used to just landing with the engine on and getting to that point you want to get to, but without the engine, then you really have to think about your glide ratio and where you're coming in.
Every landing should be that, I think, for your first 50 hours.
Because then you are dialing it. Absolutely. And then beyond that, I think understanding the weather is the biggest thing to look into. So if you're flying along, to make sure you're safe, it's keeping an eye on indicators of what the weather's doing. If you see smoke, or if you see the trees blowing, or cloud shadows on the ground moving quickly, things like that, things you can take into account while you're going somewhere, not just relying on the forecast or how these clouds are developing, things like that. So
it's really interesting you say that. We had a meeting for our club the other day, and that was one thing that came up, was looking at what talks we can do, and a couple of people mentioned they've done the meteorology for the pilot rating, but they actually want to do some more practical sort of meteorology and understanding the weather for what actually matters with regards to flying across country, knowing, interpreting what you can see. So that's it's pretty interesting that you bring that up as being high up there on your list of because understanding. If
you're going to get caught out, if you're going to be put in a bad situation, it's going to be because of the weather. Awesome.
So you've you've done your landing. I suppose if you're practicing landing on a small area, you also probably need to take off from a pretty small area as well. So that might be a useful bit of training to do.
It would be definitely a bit of useful training to do, but a lot of your flying should be avoiding those areas as well. So your route planning should be avoiding areas where you're flying directly over a forest, because if you have an engine out there or something like that, and the same applies for when you're flying somewhere to land to then take off. If you land in an emergency, you're going to find a small field, but if it's not going to be good enough for you, then
you can go. You've got more of a choice, for sure.
At least on the ground, you do have a choice, whereas in the air, you're riding that until you're on the ground.
So far, if you then want to go and take that into an adventure, would you suggest starting with a little weekend adventure, getting your tent,
even
going
just
somewhere?
Even just a day adventure as well to start with, where you pick we used to have this restaurant we used to fly to.
Nice.
A big field. We'd fly there for lunch, have lunch, wait and make sure the thermals are calming down, that we're ready to fly back again, and then fly back and, reading the forecast. And it's something to look forward to when you get there, obviously avoiding the beers when we're there, and then flying back home, so you've got that day adventure. And it's not too daunting, or what's the weather doing tomorrow, what we're doing for this. It's a nice intro into it.
I love that, because I bet if you asked 50 paramotor pilots, have you ever landed from a field that you've not taken off from, not due to an engine failure, I bet hardly anybody has. I bet most people, paragliding, you're used to doing it because that's what it's all about, but for paramotoring, actually going and landing somewhere that you've not seen is going to be a complete new thing. So you did that the whole way across Australia, which is amazing. But for some people, just going out and thinking, I've not seen this field, they'll be on Google Earth on the phone trying to figure it out, but actually just going and just doing it is probably the best way.
For sure.
Awesome.
But I mean, Google Earth has just been a wonder for planning routes as well.
Have you used that quite a bit?
Quite a bit.
Nice.
For looking at open fields, you don't know what it's going to be like when you get there. But the moment that snapshot was there, you know that there's a big enough field near a petrol station or whatever like that where you might need to fill up. But
I suppose
quite a bit, actually.
I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in the UK, there's so many times I've done that and then been there and found that it's just a housing estate. I think that's happened twice
fully
now.
cropped and you can't land.
Yeah, some flowers.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a backup is a good.
yeah, getting some backups.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've done our little day mission.
Yeah.
What's going to be the next step from there?
Then you're getting your camping gear, figuring out what that is, figuring out how it's mounted to your paramotor, being a big one. A lot of bags of sleeping bags have gone into props and things like that.
Yeah.
Not by me, but I have made many other mistakes. So making sure you know how it's mounted to there, your backups, how many ciders you might want to pack in there if you're just going for the night or whatever it is. In fact, one of my best adventures was with two of my mates. We were flying in that general direction, didn't have a landing point, didn't have anything. We were going to fly in that general direction with our camping gear.
Wicked.
And land out. So I was like, right, I'm going to take a ciabatta, tomatoes, a steak, then pack that in there, and then 3 bottles of cider, one for each of us.
Nice, yeah.
So we landed out, lit a fire, had a steak sandwich for dinner, sat with the sunset, drinking it, and then we flew back in the morning. That was one of my best adventures.
Nice.
And that was like one of the early ones as well.
Yeah. It just shows that you don't have to fly across Australia to have a good time.
No. You don't need to commit what you think is 3 weeks that turns into 3 months. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Nice.
So yeah, making sure you've got your kit together, making sure that you know what you're going to use for sleeping, or if you're going to take a hammock or a tent,
Yeah.
the paramotor tents out there, which are actually quite good. The key is not underestimating how much weight all of this stuff adds to you and your takeoff and all of these things. So
I was just going to say, going from a takeoff from half fuel to full fuel when you've got a 20 litre tank is quite a lot. And a lot of people haven't actually topped up the tank and tried an ill-wind launch. So.
Yeah, and now you're adding that with, you'll take extras. Spare pants, spare socks, spare trousers just in case, and then all of a sudden, spare cider, obviously. Get rid of the rest. And then you're going to take off, and you're running like hell, and it encourages people to do. Just get on the brakes, and then I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen in sort of cross country. I think competitions where people are not used to the weight.
Yeah, for sure.
Where they then get caught out with that. With the things they've got. So getting used to the weight is one. So before you actually go anywhere, do a circuit with your weight, make sure it's good to go. And then going out, making sure you plan obviously for airspace, and just keep checking the weather forecast and
do it.
And do it. The biggest thing is to do it.
That's it. We all have these ideas. I do. There's loads of things I've wanted to do and I've just not got around to doing it. And you're right. You just need to go and do it. And it seems like that's what you're pretty good at.
Used to be. I'm more planning now. maybe it's getting older. I don't really know what it is, but more planning now. But there's quite a few things that we used to let's just do this and go.
Yeah. Awesome. So traveling abroad, you've obviously done quite a bit of flying abroad as well.
Yes.
Flying abroad with your kit, getting your kit out there. How have you found that?
I've been to obviously Australia. I've been to Kuwait, Spain, France, Egypt, all flying the paramotor on the plane.
Yeah.
You've got to take certain steps to make sure it doesn't smell of fuel. The only place I've had an issue with was Turkey, and that wasn't because of flying it on the plane. I got it over there fine. They didn't tell me I couldn't take it, but when I got there was problems with customs getting it through into the country.
Right, okay.
That was the only issue. So it's actually not so difficult to do.
Yeah.
You just there's steps and tips that you can do to make sure that you get rid of the fuel smell. The biggest thing is making sure it doesn't smell of fuel.
Yeah.
If they smell fuel, it's not going on there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is to check with the airline to make sure you can actually take an engine on.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So I suppose there's quite a few people that are listening to this podcast that maybe their first step might want to be, actually just doing a trip abroad. And I know yourself, you're running some abroad trips at the minute.
Yes, yeah.
Some that sound pretty impressive.
So the biggest one at the minute for paramotoring, and the only one that's available at the minute, is Egypt.
Yeah.
It's a 10-day trip. You arrive in Cairo, straight into flying the pyramids for 3 days. So it's the only remaining seventh wonder of the world. You get to fly around it, see it up close, go for a tour inside, and the takeoff site is in the pyramid complex.
Wow.
So you don't even need to take off outside. You're there for the day. They've got the tent set up. They've got food.
Literally surrounded by the pyramids for 3 days and flying in them.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah,
That
it is incredible. There's the tombs, the 3 pyramids, and then the 3 smaller ones. Potential for night flying as well, depending on the conditions. Needs to be good lighting, full moon, good wind, so it's pretty tricky to get. We were amazingly lucky the first time we did it, but it is an availability. And then from there we go to El Galala, which is it's quite a strange city that they've built, spent millions building this city to kind of build the population there.
Oh, right.
But nobody's moved there yet.
Oh, wow.
So it's this full-on city with loads of empty houses, but it just means you get to fly and buzz around all the houses because nobody cares.
Oh,
so you
nice.
can fly around there, and it's on the Red Sea. So you fly the Red Sea, you fly around the houses, the buildings, landing on the beach and taking off on the beach. Amazing to fly around. And then from there, we go back to Cairo, get on a plane to Luxor, while the team we've got out there drive it down, drive all the kit overnight. Just quickly, the team over there, we use Sky Sports Egypt while we're organising these things, and they bend over backwards. They do everything. I've never met like a nicer group of people who just graft to make sure everything's working well, you know.
That's half the challenge, getting the right people. And if you've got them,
so
wow.
Yeah, we've got a really, really good relationship, and they're really good at what they do. So we get to Luxor. We stay in a 5-star hotel on the River Nile. We take off at the hotel, and then we fly up the River Nile. We've got the Karnak Temple, the Luxor Temple, and then we can fly back down. And then there's another one where we do a cross country again from the hotel over to the Valley of the Kings, see Temple of Hatshepsut, but I'm probably pronouncing that very wrong.
It sounds like you know what
it sounds like it, that's the important thing, right? So we fly over there and do the Valley of the Kings cross country, and then fly back. So you're going over the Nile, flying along all these like little villages and stuff like that, and
Oh, nice. Yeah. That sounds incredible.
It's honestly one of the best trips I've done, which is why when I came away from it, from the Ozone team, I was like, I need to go back. And I need to like show more people this area. And that's kind of how the Paramotor Trips has come about. And then I'm working on several in the background, but there's other projects that are coming up in the way at the minute.
Oh, nice. So have you got a website or anything?
It's just paramotortrips.com.
Nice, that's a good URL.
Yeah, not bad. Paramotortrips.com.
Awesome.
And then
and is it open to everyone worldwide?
Yes, it is. But you need to be able to take off and land confidently. We recommend about 50 hours before you do the trip, because it's a group of people and we're doing cross country somewhere. You know, we want to be flying together. And we need that take off and land.
Oh, nice. Oh, that sounds good. And when's the next one?
The next one, very end of November. So basically the first 10 days of December.
Any space?
Yeah.
Wicked. Wicked. There we go. Maybe not for long. Awesome. Well, it's been great to chat to you about all these Paramotor adventure stuff. Yeah. And thanks so much for coming on. And if anybody wants to sort of get in contact, apart from visiting paramotortrips.com, how else can they go?
I'm not going to give my number out. For sure. But Instagram, rich_Dolan_. Get in touch maybe there.
Awesome.
For sure.
Cheers.
Perfect. Thanks.